What's going on, guys? So, have you ever wondered how to get better contrast between the faint nebula details in a photo and the background? I've always seen these images online, like on Astrobin and Instagram, where you've got this faint nebulosity that really pops on the background. And I've always wondered what would be a good technique to doing that. And I think I've got a good way in Photoshop on how to tweak out just a little bit more contrast between the background and foreground of your nebulosity. I'm Aaron, and this is A.V.Astronomy. All right, guys, here we go. So I've got two different methods I'm going to be going over today here in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll call this one Test A. This is a most recent image I've taken. This is just 2 hours of the Christmas tree cluster. And you'll notice here on the sides, you can see there's some H alpha here that's faint, that's kind of peeking through, but I want to see if we can get that to kind of pop a little bit more or contrast a little bit more with the background. So I've got a couple different ways that I've come up with on how to do this. The first one involves using a selective mask and a curves or levels adjustment. So let's get started with that right here. So first thing we want to do is duplicate the layer, press Control J, and then we want to create a mask. So let's go to Select, Color Range, and let's see, at 89% fuzziness, 88 range, that looks pretty good. On highlights, selecting highlights, let's go there. Hit mask over here, the mask icon. And now let's refine this mask. Hold down the alternate key and then left click. And we want to invert that because what we want to affect are the dark areas of the screen, dark areas of the image here. So we're going to hit Control I. And we're going to refine this a bit more. So let's press Control M to bring up curves. And let's drag this slider down to darken the areas we don't want to be affected. Because remember, in Photoshop, white reveals, black conceals. So we really just want to mess with the background. There we go. That looks pretty good to me right there. Let's do that right there. Hit OK, and let's blur this with a Gaussian blur of 2 pixels. All right, and there's our mask. So let's click back on this image. Now, all we're going to do is pull up. Let's try with curves. Control M. And the same thing here. We're going to mess with this slider and drag it down. Watch as the background, the dark area that we selected gets darker, but the nebula itself does not. Look at this. So now, and you can adjust this to taste, of course. And you don't want to go too far, or you're going to end up clipping out some of that faint nebula. So this is something you want to tweak. You can try an S curve. You can try moving the slider over as well to give it a little more, even more contrast. And there we go. That looks pretty good to me right there. So let's look at a before and after. So here's before. Here's after. Check that out. It really does make the H alpha data pop that much more from the background. See the difference? Look at that. So that's the method using curves. You can do the same thing with levels, but I found that curves was more effective. Let's compare that to a different method here that involves using solid color layer. So let's duplicate the layer, Control J. Then what you want to do is go to this icon here and select solid color. Go ahead and hit OK at this point. And then come back to this icon here, double click it, actually uncheck it, double click it, and then sample the area you want to darken. So we're going to color sample this dark area here, or you can sample something like this here. Okay. Now it has it with a little bit of a bluish hue. We don't want that. We want to darken this with a neutral tone. So let's move this over to the gray more and darken it a bit more. Let's bring it down to about right there. Okay, let's try that. So you hit OK, click it back on, go to the layer mask, click it, hit Control-I to invert, and now you're going to paint in, make sure this is on white, which it is, and you're going to paint with a soft brush. Make sure it's hardness of like 6%, 7%, something like that, and fairly large. You can make it bigger or smaller to your taste. Now, I have found just kind of picking the areas that you want to darken is the most effective. You could just like color in all the area around the main nebulosity, but you won't get as much contrast. It won't be as effective. So let's do this. So let's just darken the areas that we see that are already dark but aren't really punching through like we would like them to. So you can see here, you can just kind of pick and choose the dark areas. Let's make this a little smaller. There we go, right there. This definitely could use a little more punch, a little more contrast. Right there. Kids wrestling in the background, in case you guys can hear that. Sorry for the random kid voice noises in the background. All right, and here we go. And a little over here. This area could use a little bit. And here. Definitely right there. And again, I'm just kind of picking around. You can be more detailed and take more time with this, but for the sake of the tutorial, so you guys get the idea, I'm just going to kind of brush through these different regions like so. All right, extend that a little bit. All right, I think that's pretty good. Maybe a little swipe there. All right, let's go with this. All right, so now what you want to do is go to this gray space on the top layer and double click. Okay, and this layer style box will come up. You're going to want to go to underlying layer. All right, and you'll notice as you start dragging this over, the stars start to come through, but it's very contrasty. It's too aggressive. So what you want to do is hold down the alternate key and click that same thing, and it splits it. See that? So let's drag this over some more, the left side of that split. Hold down that alternate key, and here we go. Look at this. So here's all the way over. Of course, this doesn't look natural, but you keep going. Pretty much non-existent there, but you want to start from the left and go to the right until you see it darken a little. There you go, and it really does feather it in nicely. Let's go with that. That looks pretty good there. So check that out. Here's a before and after. Check that out. Before and after. And it doesn't mess around with the HA at all because you selectively choose the dark areas of the image so that you can make that nebula pop that much more. Now let's compare the two. Let's see which one gave a better result. Now, this one, using the curves and selective color layer mask, definitely has more contrast than the other one. And I think I like the look of that better. However, you could obviously go into curves now at this point and get a similar result. So let's see what happens. Let's merge these two layers together. And let's see what happens now when we pull up curves, Control M, and just do a nice S curve. Oop, too much. There we go. Let's see how that compares now. So here's the one using just the selective color mask technique with curves. And here's the one with using the solid gradient color technique. I like them both, but I kind of digging the contrast boost on the selective mask, I think. So to each his own, guys, on this, but I think this is a great way to make some of those faint nebula details that you see in images like the Iris Nebula, any of those reflection or emission nebula where you have faint data coming through, but it's good. It's got to be good data, but it's kind of faint. this is, I think, a really good way to help make that pop that much more. So that's it, guys. This was kind of a real quick tutorial. I hope you found it useful. If you like the lesson here, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share with your friends, share online. Let's keep this thing going and keep it growing. Also, if you are interested in any of the gear that I use or that I recommend, I've got links to Agena Astro and OPT down in the description below, and that will help get you started on the right foot. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to, or any requests, please feel free to put them in the comment section. I'll see what I can do to help you guys out. And if you're not already following me on Twitter and Instagram, go ahead and do so. I post pictures on there all the time, and I'm always willing to help if you've got a question about imaging or processing. So, guys, as always, I want to thank you for watching. Keep on looking up, keep on seeking, and until next time, clear skies. God bless.